why did I decide to open up my own guitar store? It started with the invention of my special signature guitar called Mastercaster. It's like roughly like a Strat style looking guitar with a 24 fret neck, lots of pickups and all kinds of sounds. I decided to have this guitar built for me because in the studio I'm playing so many different sounds. I play all the overdubs, I play the basics. So, I use Gibson guitars, Explorers, Les Pauls, Strats, Telecasters. And when we go out on the road and I'm on stage, I only have the two hands. So I have to reproduce all the sounds that I recorded in the studio. So I tried to get Boris Domanger, who's like my guitar maker, get him to build something where I can reproduce all the sounds with one instrument from all the songs of the long Scorpions discography, and therefore I came up with that guitar. And as soon as I went on stage with it, I had so many people asking me. The first one was the zebra stripe one with a very fleshy look. They asked me, where can I get it? And they wanted to buy it from me. They didn't want to order it directly from Boris. So after a while I thought, what can I do? I cannot invite everybody to my house, especially not when I'm on the road, so I won't be there. And that's why at some point in the summer of 2007, we were playing in Augsburg, which is not too far away from Munich, where we are right now. And a friend of mine told me there is a music store, it was almost like a porn store where you're buying, selling, trading used instruments. And the two guys wanted to retire and wanted to give up their store. And I looked at it. It was total chaos. And I still liked it. I liked the area, I liked the street. Nice address, Parisian Street, Paris Street. And I said, okay, I buy it. So I bought the whole store with all the crap that was in there. Some of the stuff was very good, some vintage instruments. And then we cleaned it all out within the first 3 months. And then I closed the store and we renovated it, a new wiring, new everything, new carpeting, especially designed with my logo. And, we made it really nice. The stage behind me, where bands have been playing. For the opening, the Scorpions were here to play. Last year they were here again. And so it's been a lot of activities. And that's the story of the store. And that's why I had to have a neutral place where people can meet and check out my signature instruments. That was the initial thought. But meanwhile, it turned into a music store with all kinds of guitars and all the brands, and new and used and vintage and ukulele and kiddies guitars and everything. But we have no drums, no keyboards, no brass, no bullshit.
Like in the mess in Frankfurt, when you walk into one of the big rooms with drums, you go
Save me from the percussion room. I know, it's like 20 people in the same room trying hi-hat cymbals.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you walk in deaf, you walk out with bleeding ears. Yes, I played at local bands in Hanover, and we were playing all over Germany, though. Starting out with Deadlock in 1975, I went to Fargo in 1976, and also within 76, I switched to Lady, a band that were consisted of members from Jane, which was a very popular band at the time, keyboard player and drummer. And so we were also working a lot for television, so I got a little bit of experience how to act in front of the camera. I forgot everything about it, and so that was a good experience for me. We went to the studio, we recorded something. So when I joined the Scorpions, only months later, I had at least a bit of experience regarding recording and camera work. Which was good, which was helpful. And Yeah, at some point, Rudolf Schenker called me and said if I wanted to join them in the rehearsal room for a jam session. I said, yeah, let's go. And we played a few songs, all Scorpions material from the 70s. And at some point, he called me again and he said if we want to like rehearse. And then meanwhile, because I knew Uli John Roth very well, like his younger brother Jochen and me, we went to school together. We grew up in the same area outside of Hanover, and we played guitar together. So I knew that he had quit the band. And the second time Rudolf called me was for like a real rehearsal. What I didn't know though was that before I played with them, they went to London to rehearse with like 140 guitar players, like 12 hours a day, 3 days, more or less around the clock. And I think it was recommended by Herman, who had lived in, our ex-drummer, who had lived in London, and he thought that's where you find the best guitar players. Obviously not. And so then I rehearsed with them, and then they said, yes, you're the new guy. And since then, I'm in the band sitting here talking about it 38 years later. But it's, you know, as they say, time flies when you're having fun. It doesn't feel long at all. It feels fresh and young, and the memory is absolutely complete. When the band sits together and talks about the old days, or first time to America, or whatever in '79, or to Japan, you know, especially those stories from the very beginning, they really stuck in your mind. And we know every detail about every trip, and it's fun to talk about it. I played the Strat just because, you know, I like Stratocasters until today. I played it because, you know, I really love Jimi Hendrix a lot. And, you know, all those greats, Ritchie Blackmore I listened to, Jeff Beck, and everybody played Strat at the time. You know, in the 70s, it was like either Strat or Les Paul, very few SGs, very few Flying Vs, almost no Explorer. So when I picked up the Explorer, I did it because I needed like a humbucking sound. Les Paul was too heavy for me at the time for the stage, and the cutaway is not good enough. And also I needed to have like a counterpart to the Flying V of Rudolph. And Flying V and Explorer really look very fleshy. Those are the two most fleshy guitars Gibson ever made. They are the originals for all the guitars that came later, the Heavy Star Shape or whatever. Those two guitars, yes, the futuristic ones from the late 70s. I think the first prototype of the Explorer, I saw one day. It was from 1957, and they were like published in 1958 and built also in 1959. Very few Explorers, super expensive today if you find an original. And there are so many fakes around, be careful. And Flying V, a few more, or a lot more, but still very valuable. And so I picked the Explorer because of that. So it gave the band a look, you know, right away. And I think for many years I was the only halfway popular guitar player with an Explorer, you know, until, you know, I extended it in the late 80s when I recommended Gibson to build me a guitar that has more frets but less body size. So that's why the Explorer 90 is the one I'm playing today. Yeah, Michael played the Flying V when he went to UFO. And Rudolph always played Flying Vs, as long as I can remember. And he's got plenty. So, you know, all he has is Flying Vs. Hundreds, I guess. And from all different like periods. And he has also, I think, at least 4 1958 Flying Vs. Very nice. And yeah, I've been surrounded. The first time I saw a Flying V, and it was really like a very fleshy picture from Johnny Winter. I had this poster in my room, and a very tiny little room. And I went to school, you know, and you know, learned how to play guitar. I'm self-taught, and I had this poster, this famous poster, Johnny Winter with the 1958, where you see this rubber piece. for a good reason, even though that doesn't work. The Flying V has a problem. Here's the one, with the Jimi Hendrix painting, a hand-painted guitar. A Flying V is very, looks flashy, nice on stage, but very good to play, but to play sitting down is a problem. Because if you go like this, as you wish, then it slides down. That's why the 58 in the beginning has this piece of rubber here, so it's supposed to stop it from sliding down, but obviously, gravity is much stronger than this little piece of rubber. And so that didn't work. But, to sit there, I see Rudolf in the studio and he sits like this. It's not very comfortable. And it's very hard to, have your body groove while you have, a shovel like this between your legs. And an Explorer is much more comfortable. And in the studio, you do sit down. When the band plays together with drums, then, okay, you stand up and like in a rehearsal room. But we, for many, many decades, record in the control room and everybody's sitting down. You can't stand up for 12 hours, then your energy goes into your legs. But you want the energy here on the fretboard. And it's a very nice looking guitar. This one here especially, I think, and this little maestro thingy, Yep. We got a knob here to stop it.
That's why the knob is there.
Yeah. This knob is to stop it the other way around. Anyway, it's a great invention, and it's a very good sounding guitar. Yeah, it's nice to move around. It's light. You don't need a guitar stand. It stands by itself. Very good. I mean, it had the nickname Flying Arrow. Would you open the window, please? You shoot it up to the moon, you throw it around, it flies very well, short distance though. And yes, it's a very special, simple shape, very fleshy. It's right into your face, and that's why it looks good for the rock star, the posing rock star. You see some guitar players, the more introvert ones, you couldn't imagine Jeff Beck playing a Flying V. He's more into what he does at this moment. Some people run around and, just do, this. And so it's a rock star guitar, I would say, for the posing rock star. But it's a beautiful instrument. It's well laid out, it's well balanced, and it sounds great, especially when you get a good one. This one is a very good one. And so I know it. I've been surrounded by Flying Vs. They sound great. And, especially the ones from 58 or later on, some of the mid-60s, 67 are also great. And obviously the early 70s with the medallion are great. And the newer ones, it's hard to find a very good one. But it's a very good looking and unique looking guitar. Yeah, the guitar became popular, and it has to do with its look a lot, because it's good for posing for photos, TV show. It just, at the time, it was so unusual that somebody played a Flying V on stage, and probably the people around the player said, great, do that again, it looks fantastic. Or the photographer friends, yes. So it's a looker. But it's a good playing and good sounding looker, which makes it so successful. Yeah. But I picked the Explorer for various reasons, to have a nice band look, 2 guitar players, 1 Explorer, 1 Flying V, and also it's more comfortable to play for me, especially when sitting down. Yes, I mean, it also depends a lot on playing. If I think, you give different guitar players the same guitar, you will get a different sound to begin with. And but it's a nice matching sound. Rudolf and I really created a sound that is now the typical Scorpion sound. You can tell, whatever album it is, we created it in the late 70s, early 80s, especially with the release of Blackout in 1982. I think that's when everybody knew this is the Scorpion sound. Yes, I played the V guitar in the studio. I tried this one here, And I used to own a couple of medallions from the early 70s, very nice sounding guitars. Yes, I did, for a couple of solos. And I remember only recently we were rehearsing, and I was expecting, you know, the crew had set everything up, but there was none of my guitars in the studio. So we played the set, and I borrowed one of Rudolph's. So, you know, but we were standing up. So, you know, if you sit down, you can't play the guitar.
Or something?
No, but it's like, I don't know, it makes you stiff.
Yeah.
Because you have to also concentrate that you're holding the guitar with your legs. If I have a good-looking guitar, for example, you know, this here, you know, it's like much more comfortable. You can groove, you can move, you can do whatever you like. It's sitting here by itself. It's so well balanced.
Because it got the shape.
Yeah, and it has this here, so you can rest it on your upper leg, which is like now I can move both hands. And with this, I have to squeeze it into.
You have to struggle.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. It's like now, yeah, what do I do? It's like,
Yeah.
you know.
Don't drop it, please. Yes, not so many.
Yes, my guitar heroes were the guitar greats from the 60s and 70s. I listened to a lot of blues, learned a lot from Johnny Winter. Hendrix is my all-time favorite until today. He's got something, he's got some magic nobody else has, no matter how good they are. He's got something that's so influential and so unique that it's, you know, he stands alone. But I also listened a lot to Deep Purple with Ritchie Blackmore. When Deep Purple and rock came out, was when I started playing guitar. Funny thing, in 1982, we played together with Rainbow in the US, and we had this big radio hit, No One Like You, which was like all my harmony lead guitars. And Ritchie Blackmore came to the dressing room and asked me how I played the harmony. And that, to me, was pretty good. Anyway, he's a nice guy. We met a lot of times later. And yeah,
Did you
so...
show him how to play the harmonies?
Of course. I couldn't say no. And yeah, who else? Jeff Beck, like very stylish guitar player. And of course, I listened a lot to Eric Clapton with Cream, like White Room, one of my favorite songs. It was basically all along the Watchtower from Hendrix that made me play guitar. I heard it on the radio. We only had one radio show once a week at the time, and me and my sister, we could stay up longer just to listen. It started at 8 o'clock, you know, those were the days. And I heard the song in the top 10, and I started crying. And that was all along the Watchtower. And I asked a friend of mine in school, I knew he played a bit of guitar. I said, what kind of instrument was this? I heard this song last night, and he said it was an electrical guitar. That's how much I knew about it. So I said, that from then on, I knew, you know, for my next birthday, I got an acoustic guitar. This is what I want to do. The Strat is a genius invention with everything involved. Leo Fender was a genius. You know, it's such a, like, the way it fits to your body, the way it looks, you can't get tired of that look. The Strat is the ultimate classic-looking guitar to me. Les Paul is the counterpart. It's also like basically shaped like an acoustic guitar with one cutaway. So simple, but so genius. I mean, this is also genius, but it is like somebody thought about making it look flashy, being inspired by what was going on in the 50s. You know, I'm on stage, I play Explorers most of the time, but I learned, and not only because I'm sitting in my guitar store here, that guitar players, which is a good thing for a guitar store owner, they want basically everything. They want to change. They want the sound of a Les Paul, a Flying V, an Explorer, a Strat, a Telecaster, have to have one, and they want this and they want that. Bass players, You give them a second bass, just a spare instrument. They don't know what to do with it. You know, because their strings never break.
No, they cook the strings, man.
As we all did in the past. We cooked the strings, yeah. And, you know, their strings never break, and they can, like, transpose. They don't have to have the open string for certain chords. They can, like, play in every way. And so, but guitar players, and, you know, I'm one of them, I like to have different models for different sounds, for different aspects. Not so much on stage, because there you have your own look. But in the studio, you like to experiment and, you know, have some odd instruments, you know, have a resonator guitar, or the, you know, I mean, we haven't even mentioned all the different acoustics there are. And you want to be able to deliver, you have an idea, you have a certain imagination about what it should sound like, and it's nice to have like a guitar store in the studio. And when Rudolf and I, we went to Austria once to record in the late 90s, they'd never seen anything like it, because we brought not all of the guitars, but a lot, like a truck full. And it was like nice. You know, there's no guitar store in the world that has what, if we put our top guitars in one room. You know, all the vintage stuff, Flying V's, the Explorers, the Les Pauls, the ES335, like 59, 58, everything. You know, it's great. That if you have too many guitars, you can't play them all. Your house is not big enough to put them all on display. And it's better for the guitars anyway to stay in the case. So we have the same. We have like our guitars in cases, and they're in special containers, and the container is in the warehouse, and the warehouse is well hidden, and you know, and so you don't see your guitars. You have a collection, but you don't. That's a bit of the problem. You know, I have a few guitars at home, which when I'm in my studio I play all the time. But if it's only 10, you don't pick all 10 every day. You pick the one that is sitting there right next to you, and maybe another one. Yeah. So,
and that's a shame.
Yeah, but what can you do? It's even worse with acoustic guitars, because they need to be played more than solid body guitars in order to sound good, to maintain their sound. Yeah. If you don't play them, they sound dead after a while, and you have to start playing them, you know, for hours and hours and days. And if you have, like, let's say, a collection of 30 acoustic guitars, none of them will sound good, because you don't have time enough to play each one of them. So it's better to have like 2 really and play them.
Guitars.
Yes. Said the owner of a guitar store. Erase that immediately. Yes, I mean, when I joined the Scorpions, they were a great band, pretty popular, you know, for those days. Nothing in comparison to today, of course, but they already left a certain mark, and they had some great albums out in the 70s, 4 or 5, I don't know exactly. But style-wise, Uli had his own style. He was very Hendrix-influenced, and he sang his own songs, his voice, okay? But, and then there was the other side, the Klaus and Rudolf side, so to speak. So the band never really had the one style. It was always something here and there, and I think that's difficult. When I joined, we found our style, maybe not on the first album. It was the search for it. My influence was obviously, you know, that we have a more compact sound. We sound like one unit and not like 2 different units. And I think we finalized the style in 1982 with Blackout, and from then on you could say this is the Scorpion style worldwide. I mean, to actually, you know, now I'm in the band for 38 years. Uli, my predecessor, you know, and friend, he was in the band 4 or 5 years, and Michael played on Lonesome Crow, was in the band for 1.5 years. So to me, he had no influence on Scorpions, because Lonesome Crow is really very different. It's their first album. Everybody was trying out to do something. He doesn't have any influence. Uli influenced the 70s, until, you know, I joined, and the rest, yeah, it's just me, I would say. Many bands break up or members leave because their own egos are in their way. And it either destroys the band, or, you know, you have a new drummer again and you have a new bass player again, or whatever. And that is in the way. With the Scorpions, we found a good balance. And we're also one of the very few bands that really can play worldwide. We just finished a tour in Asia. I mean, we just played in Vietnam. We played in Australia for the first time. We played in New Caledonia, China, Japan, Taiwan, Singapore, Malaysia, everywhere. And not too many bands do this. After, you know, we just played South America, all countries, and US anyway, Europe. We play everywhere.
Where do you find the energy to that?
It's because we like what we are doing. And, you know, the audience, the fans, they give you the energy in case, you know, your battery is low. You go on stage and they go, yeah. And then I give you a good example. Years and years and years ago, when we were very young and fresh, we are still fresh, but not so young anymore. But in 1982, we flew from California to Tokyo, and it was only one day off, basically the travel day. And so we had to play the next night, and we were all really tired. And we got these very nice looking backstage passes, like aluminum, like that, with a nice Japanese design. I went, oh, wow, that's good looking. And I asked the tour manager, what does this number mean at the bottom? 182, no, 182. And he said, you know, that's show number 182, dumbass. And I don't count shows, but I realized that night, being so tired, I realized, wow, it's show number 182 for us, and we are tired. But it's show number 1 for the fans waiting out there in the venue. So let's go and kick some ass. And that's what we always do. We discover like different cultures, you know, by traveling around the world so much and discovering new places. We just got offers to play on the Fiji Islands, Tahiti, all those places. It's interesting just because we haven't been there and we play to a whole new audience. You know, it's also good to play Berlin for the 50th time, but, you know, to have the side effect of getting to a new country, like in Vietnam just weeks ago, it's fantastic, you know.
But it got one thing in common, no matter where you play in the world. The audience know your songs.
Absolutely. The audience comes prepared. They know the songs. They're singing, they're dancing, they're screaming. That gives you the energy. That is what musicians love to do, and this is like that makes you almost addicted. Yeah. You know, it's nice to have a break after a long tour, but it's after a while, you know.
I know that
body and brain want some of that stuff.
Too, you know, and you have a bad night, you have a headache, you have pain in your arm or something. These things just disappear.
They disappear because the adrenaline, you know, flows your system, and then it's all you want to do. And I mean, you get the response, and a great response, immediately, instantly. And that's great. In the studio, even though I really love to create new things, you sit there and next to a boring engineer, and you know, and the band, everybody's like this, you know, and you have to wait until the album is finished, released, and then you get the first reactions. Before, you're making your own music and go.
Engineers don't have no humor, man. They don't have no humor.
That's the problem with these guys.
Yeah. That's why they're engineers.
Exactly.
Almost like drummers.
Yeah.
You took a selfie, right?
Yeah. Okay, Matthias, thank you so very much.
Thank you.